any written laws, that each and every single one of us takes individual and collective responsibility. I just don't think we're there yet, and we need bridges to get us there. And that is about shifting our values that are entrenched within laws to get us to a point that we no longer need what's written. Because law is just a tool at the end of the day to facilitate and assist society to think in a given way. That was what the power of the abolition of slavery in written form was about. It shifted norms. And literally overnight, places like Bristol, once it was abolished, it went from being the norm to have a black in chains to being utterly unacceptable. And this really is the power of law to do that, that it actually helps facilitate a shift in consciousness in its own right. And even just having the discussion about what is possible and what we can do here shifts our framework, our vision of where we want to go and what we deem acceptable and unacceptable. And that is very much a powerful thing within law itself. So the end result might not be the written law. The end result might well be, which is I think possibly far more important, is our collective shift of consciousness to say, okay, we close the door to mass damage and destruction. And yes, we give voice on behalf of the earth. And we make decisions that are, for each and every one of us, individual and collective responsibility. Richard Branson, please nominate him. Yes, he says screw business as usual. The reason that we are actually looking at, and not just business obviously, but many other constituency groups, is that when Charles Grant did stand up and speak out alongside William Wilberforce, two things happened. He gave permission for other business leaders to give voice as well. A lot was being said behind closed doors to say this is unacceptable. But he gave permission, and he allowed others to then stand up and speak out as well. So that's very powerful, how each and every one of us stands up and shows leadership. But also the second important thing there was that government listened and acted. They took action because they heard it from business. Now, when I'm invited in to speak to governments now about this law, I tell them the story about Charles Grant in more detail. And they say they need a Charles Grant. So that it gives them permission to stand up and speak out. This is the power of the corporate world. Now, the international crime of ecocide, what it does do is it trumps that power of the corporations, because it does something truly radical. It imposes a legal duty of care on the human beings that run those corporations. At the moment that does not exist. You find a company, you find the fictional entity. A company is just basically a piece of paper. Whatever its charters or articles of association, there's no point putting a piece of paper in prison. But crime attaches itself to human beings, and international crime attaches itself to people who are in positions of superior responsibility, those who are in a position of command and control. It's known as the command and control by the superior responsibility principle. And that is the power of international crime. So it's about using international crime to trump that power and impute that responsibility in a very powerful way that overrides those existing rights that corporations have, so that number one priority becomes, literally overnight, the priority to ensure that they do not cause damage and destruction as a result of their corporate activity. The International Court for the Environment, yeah, absolutely, this is very much in this space. The wonderful thing is there's a growing narrative, this kind of dynamic convergence and emergence of ideas happening just now. We've got an International Court for the Environment, which is great, because where are we going to house this? Is it, again, just put it in the International Criminal Court, or create a new International Court for the Environment, put it in there as well? We've got a lot of discourse happening in the UN as well about the global commons. Rather than property and ownership, actually maybe we should be creating a global commons where we're all trustees and guardians for the earth. What we're seeing also is the whole dialogue around ecological justice is really building up. Now, big ideas don't start in the heart of the mainstream. They start out way in the margins. And these are all ideas, and Mel as well, talking about community engagement. They're all important because they create the pressure points and pinch points that expands our vision for a greater world.